This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things metaphysical and spiritual, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
We welcome you to the World Awakenings podcast. Before we start, we'd like to tell you about a special ebook written by the show's host, Carl Gruber. The Three Pillars, a simple three-step process to manifest positive and permanent change in your life. The concise 32-page Three Pillars ebook will teach you how to become a successful and consistent co-creator of your life path with the law of attraction. Yes, you can manifest the life you truly desire, and the ebook is absolutely free. Simply go to Carl's website, carlgruberlifecoach.com. That's KARLGRUBER lifecoach.com. Click on the header title About Me and get the free download today. Carl Gruber's free ebook, The Three Pillars, will positively change your life.
Hey everybody, thank you again for coming to World Awakenings. This is episode 23, and I tell you what, I am really stoked to have this guest. It's so exciting to have Kerri Hummingbird on. She is an amazing lady. She is a true spiritual student and teacher. She is a channeler. She has a friend named White Eagle who hangs out with her and talks to her and through her. And an author, a best-selling author right now, and from Austin, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Kerri Hummingbird. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Carl, for inviting me to come on your show.
Well, you know, as we mentioned a little bit ago before we started recording, I know you have your own podcast. Actually, what's the name of that podcast?
My podcast is called Soul Nectar Show.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I've watched some of it and listened to some of it, and it's excellent. So, Kerri, you are, I have to say, one of the most interesting individuals that I have come across. And like I said, this is the 23rd episode. I've had some amazing individuals on here. And your new book, which is called The Second Wave, Transcending the Human Drama, which I believe you co-wrote with White Eagle. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I channeled it from White Eagle. Yes, I did. Mm-hmm. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
See the rainbow eye, which I love. It's like rainbow eye. Get it? Like there's one eye with a bunch of rainbow in it. That's us.
And you said this book has been on the bestseller list for 26 weeks?
28 weeks now. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, man, you can retire soon. This will be great.
I wish, but yeah, actually I don't, because I love doing this work. So I'll be doing this till this form stops.
Yeah. And, you know, I actually bought and downloaded your ebook version of that. So I've been reading it. And last night I was sitting here and next to Gary Renard's The Disappearance of the Universe that I read when it came out back in the late 2000s. I mean, what you have written there is just jaw-dropping. It's like things that even true spiritual and metaphysical students may have no idea about. And we'll get deeper into that. I mean, it's just amazing stuff. Let me go back. Let's give the audience a little insight. How did this all come about with you? I read in your book that you, like me, were lucky and you didn't have parents that imprinted any type of spiritual or religious doctrine on you. Is that a good starting point for you?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, so my mom actually grew up Southern Baptist in Midwest Texas, And that right around the time of the civil rights movement, she was a teenager, and she saw some things even from an early child that she thought were incongruent, so talking about all the little children in Bible study school are all equal and doesn't matter what color your skin is and all this kind of stuff, and singing the songs in Sunday school, and then you can't go into the colored bathroom
Right.
because you're white. And she's like, but I like rainbows and I want to go in the color bathroom. It's like little kids are so fun, right? They point out all the fallacies in our thinking. So what she really discovered was that there was a lot of hypocrisy in religion. So she was very rebellious and decided, I don't like any of that, and moved to Dallas, and then got in with some very adventurous types, like my natural father, who was on the edge of exploring polyamory and all those things, in the 60s, when that's not, even today, that's something that's a little on the edge. In Austin, we have a big community that does that, but it's really something that's out of the conventional norm of what most people experience in their lives. So he was really at the cutting edge of that, and it was a lot for her to handle. So there were a lot of things in my early upbringing, that were a little traumatized by that. But yeah, my mom decided she wasn't going to go with the doctrines, and she wasn't going to imprint me with them because she thought they were sort of false, because they weren't carried all the way through with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't give me any religion. And as a teenager, I felt like that was really weird, because I tried to date a boy one time, and I'm on the phone with the boy, and the boy, his mother asked him a question, and he comes back on, he says, my mom wants to know, what are you? I said, I'm a girl. What are you talking about? What am I? And what he wanted to know is, what religion am I?
Yeah.
What church do I go to? He said, well, what church do you go to? I said, I don't go to a church. He said, oh, well, what religion are you? And I asked my mom, I didn't know. I'm like, Mom, what religion am I? And she said, oh, that's a good one. She said, tell him you're a humanitarian. So then I got the click, oh, I got to go.
Oh, no. I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's
So,
a real advantage to that, because I also grew up where the topic of religion was never even brought up. But I didn't know anything else. I had no friends that I knew that went to church. And I think it's a good thing. It gave us a clean slate, where we could jump in on this type of thing, the ideal of expanding spiritually and enlightening.
yeah, well, it gave me a blank slate. So I don't have any preconceived notions. I didn't have anything I had to resist or fight against. I subsequently found out that that's a big deal for people. That's really hard for them, actually. They've got to overcome a lot of fears and judgments and things in order to embrace spirituality, which is different than religion. So I think a lot of religion, at least Christian religion, at least I've experienced it in this country, is a lot of times what it does is it sort of puts a lot of fear around what would be spirituality. And spirituality in my book would be a personal experience of spirit, a personal experience of the divine, a one-to-one conversation. An experience meaning feeling, sensing, seeing, with all your senses, perceiving spirit. And there's a lot of fear around an individual encounter with spirit. So what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about here, though, is that the only path that leads to self-actualization is a personal one.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't self-actualize through the minister that's talking to you about the Bible. That you will never do it that way.
I think
You
you kind of touched on
cannot.
that in your book. I think I was reading something like that, similar to that. But I'm just super curious, because I mean, the path that you have taken on your journey of spirituality and metaphysics. So you're a young girl. You have a blank slate. How did you start getting into what you're doing now? I'm just really curious of the road that.
Well, I didn't have spirituality, and I didn't have church. So I didn't have any notion of like God, right? So
Mhm.
I just sort of had my mind and myself, and coping with a lot of early childhood frameworks that were put in place. So, when you're a child, everything that happens to you in your early childhood creates, and even when you're in the womb, starting from when you're conception, creates a paradigm within which you start to operate as if that is the reality. And so mine was had some stuff. It had some trauma. It had my natural father sort of with his polyamory ideas based in wounding, because he had, sort of some terrible traumatic things happen to him as a youngster with his mom and men and showing up and things like that. And so this was ancestral, passed down. So I had that in my matrix. Plus I had, the first stepfather was a violent drunk. So I had that in my matrix, sort of hearing in the other room as a toddler in my room, like hearing fighting and things going on.
Yeah.
And, and also having some physical, like very small amount of physical abuse, thankfully, on myself from my first stepfather. But, there was also just wounding in my mom's past. So we inherit all this. This becomes part of our framework, right? And so in mine, it included this idea that I was somehow broken or wrong or needed to be fixed, or how I wasn't okay, and it was dangerous somehow, and I needed to like get it under control. And what did I really have? Well, I just had like a really open channel, and I've always had a really open channel. It's just that now I know how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to channel things, and I was able to perceive things, and I was able to know things I really shouldn't know at the time. And anyway, and I'm a healer, so I'm an empath and a healer, so I would pick up on things going on in other people, and I would take it on as it was mine. Like with my mom, you want to help your parents. A lot of little kids do this. They want to help their parents in whatever situation they perceive is going on, and so they'll take that pain and suffering and put it right inside themselves to help.
Mm-hmm.
That starts to form your reality. So by the time I hit 15, with that reality sort of being grown and twisted and reinforced and all these things, I was in kind of a wreck, and I tried to take a bunch of Tylenol with codeine to end it, and that didn't work out, luckily.
Good.
I'm still here, So, but that did put me in a psychiatrist's office.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my journey with psychiatry and psychology, and that journey lasted for decades.
And this is when you were a teenager?
Psychotherapy.
This started
Yeah.
when you were a teenager. Okay.
Yeah, and all the way through like my 20s and my 30s and even some of my 40s, I'm going to these weekly psychotherapy sessions to try to like figure out how to fix myself. But really going in there and like being upset that I'm somehow, that the latest version of it's happening, and I don't know why I don't feel good and everybody else seems to feel good and their lives are good. And then vacillating between that and feeling great, so it's like two sides of the spectrum: feel great, feel terrible,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting it all to be great. I mean, who doesn't want it all to be great? Everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to make it all great. Well, in psychotherapy, they'll let you sit there and talk about it as much as you want, for as many weeks as you want,
Yes.
or as many years as you want.
For a lot of fee.
For them to take their paycheck. This is not to disparage psychotherapists out there in the audience whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to admit there's some problems in the industry, because if the goal is not to progress it forward within a distinct period of time into a solution, then that's a problem. If the goal is just to hang out there and let somebody, say whatever they want to say for as long as they want to say it, that's not a good goal, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the situation I got in, Carl, is decades and decades of that and no traction. And it can drive, if you were told you were crazy and you kept resisting it, at some point with enough of that reinforcement, you finally start to believe it.
Well, when did the first crack in the facade and the ray of light start shining through into your life, and you started to discover more about your true self?
I decided to be bad.
Okay.
I said, fine then.
Yeah.
I'll be bad. And so I left my 20-year relationship and I walked out, and instantly, with just the relief of fine, I'll just be bad then. What happened was I started getting people in my life who would help me the real way,
Mm-hmm.
Spirituality way.
Yeah.
So I got a yoga teacher who ended up being a spiritual mentor for a while. I hooked up with I met a shamanic teacher locally here in Austin who does a program called Quest for Authenticity. And this was a real turning point for me, because I went into the class and it's all about like the 4 agreements and don't take anything personally and all that kind of stuff. I started learning about that. I'm thinking, gosh, I wish I had read this book in 3rd grade. And a matter of fact, I think we should be teaching our kids this in 3rd grade. But I had a spiritual healing.
Mm.
I'd never had one of those before. I didn't even know that was a possibility. So I'm lying on the floor in his office. He's drumming. And I'm lying on the floor thinking I've been downgraded. You know, I used to be on a couch and now I'm on the floor. Shit,
And
they're
he's
getting
drunk.
worse, not better. So he's drumming. And I tell myself, listen, just quiet your mind, Kerri. I remember what he told me. Like, just tune into the moment, be present, and don't worry about what's going to happen. Just like, if you just shh, then maybe something will happen. And the moment I decided that, he stopped drumming, and I instantly felt this presence coming over me that was loving.
Mm.
I'd never felt that before. It was like a layer of, it's like something was hovering above me, full of love.
Wow. Wow.
And then he started just doing a healing, taking energy out of my chest, taking this black energy out of my heart and flicking it. I could feel him flick the energy into the sage dish where the burning sage was. Like, I was like, what's going on? So I started becoming aware that things were shifting in me. And then if things are being taken out of me, then I'm not one solid thing, I'm multiple things. And if I'm multiple things, then what's the real me? And so all of this cascade of question began.
Mm-hmm.
And it rolled out. So that healing catalyzed like a snowball my evolution, because once I remembered that I wasn't the story that I kept thinking I was, that I was telling every week on the couch, once I realized that the I was a different I, everything shifted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wouldn't say like it was the only thing, because it's definitely been like many mountains I have climbed since that moment, but that was pivotal, the recognition of the remembrance of that.
That's interesting you say that. Dr. David Hawkins has a book called The Eye of the Eye, the EYE of the eye. So very cool. So again, reading your book, The Second Wave, you have really extensively explored Native American spiritual beliefs and practices, and also in South America. And aren't you part Native American?
I am. I'm part Cherokee. And so my exploration began around that time that I had that healing, because I was working with this teacher who had the quest for authenticity. He also led a drum journey circle every 2 weeks. So I got a drum and I started using the drum. I started drumming and doing meditations with myself. And then I thought, you know, I'm part Cherokee, but I lost that connection in the third dimension. So I wanted to go find it. So I actually went to on a road trip twice. The first time I didn't get anywhere with it, but the second time I went to Cherokee in the Smoky Mountains, I went to the Cherokee Nations. They have like a replica village, and so I went there. And I just started asking around. I'm like, you know, I just need to talk to a Cherokee shaman. I don't know how you find one. They're not listed in the phone book. So I need like a shaman to help me, because I know I'm supposed to collect this piece or something's supposed to happen. And I don't know how to get connected with my ancestors. And there's something really important missing and I need to get it. And by the time I was so frustrated, I was crying, because this is like the second time I've been out there and trying to find something. And my boys were with me. Well, so they finally led me to this guy named Bruce, who was only there for the day as it happened.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And I said, okay, well, this is my thing. He said, I'll meet you on the parking lot in a few minutes when I get done with my shift. So as I walk out away from him with my boys to go meet him in the parking lot, all of a sudden I feel like somebody flung a softball of energy through the back of my skull, like right where my neck meets my back of my head.
Wow.
And I like it started expanding and I got really dizzy. I had to sit down. I told my boys, I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but I'm seeing the trees breathe. All kinds of stuff started happening. And I thought, what is this? I don't know what just happened. And that lasted for days, that seeing the trees breathe thing. Like, it was a little hard to drive. But I was like, okay, something just profoundly happened. Well, that kicked off years of healing this Cherokee shaman that I became aware of in my consciousness, who had been, you know, a shaman, medicine man, something, you know, chief. I don't know. It wasn't clear to me for a long time, but he had an important role in the tribe. And I was healing him because he had gotten very discouraged on the Trail of Tears, seeing everything that he was witnessing.
This is White Eagle, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now I know that. but I didn't know that then. I just knew I was this Cherokee chief, I keep saying, and I'm doing these, and it's like I can feel it, and I could even see scenes that he through his eyes that he was seeing. I could even see those. I felt the grief. I'm like, I would just burst into tears if I started talking about it. I would just cry, like I couldn't stop crying. So there was something happened, an emerging of his self and myself from this other lifetime, so yeah, so it's been a really intricate, deep inner journey to rectify the person that I was, the woman I was, and then this being that I guess I was before, and then the two of us together, the masculine and the feminine, and healing the wounds between, so many wounds, masculine and feminine, healing wounds between, indigenous people and Caucasian people. I mean, just all of this happening like within me. And it's been very intense. It's been beautiful and intense.
So
Yeah.
White Eagle was like this ball of energy that came in through the back of your head. But what was the time frame? So he didn't start channeling through you right away. It took a while. And how did that even happen the first time?
So what that looked like was I started realizing, like in healings, I started realizing within myself first, like I'm seeing these visions of like what seems like the Trail of Tears and this medicine man, and I'm seeing grief, and so I would go get a healing session, and then my person that was helping me heal would see it too, would see more information about it or share more information with me about it. So then I started going, okay, well, this is a thing. I'm integrating something. And then people that would work with me that were psychic or clairvoyant of some kind, they would, because on this show I talk to a lot of people, right? So I was always connecting with people even before I started doing my show. And I would be connecting with people that were clairvoyant, and they would say, I keep seeing this like this Native American man pop in and out of you. Like he's like in you, and then he leaves and he goes to the side, and then he stands there like this, too many thinking. And that's what he kept saying, too many thinking, too many thinking. And so that was my mantra for a long time, was like, too many thinking. I'm thinking too much. He can't get in because I can't stay in because I keep thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So we worked on that a long time, with different healers and things, and doing work with the Four Winds and different healers programs I worked on. So I did not really know. I was getting increasing clairsentience in terms of like wisdom was starting to come out of my mouth that I didn't really think was mine. Like it seemed profound more than I knew. I was like, wow, I'm pretty smart. Like, where'd that come from? So that started happening. And I started happening in my client and my healing sessions, because I would do healing sessions with people, because I'm trained to do healing sessions through the Four Winds Society, which is based in Caro shamanism from Peru.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would be doing the healing sessions, and my goal was to lose myself so that I could be present for what the client needed. So that was my practice. So I would lose myself, be present, and listen into whatever I needed to see for the client or hear for the client or do for the client. And so he was working with me the whole time. People would say, oh, they looked up at me during the healing session and they saw this shaman, this like Indian man, like right there. So, I mean, this was happening a lot. So basically, I didn't know until, and then I started channeling this book in February last year. I was told, oh, you're going to write a new book. Oh, really? What's that book called? The Second Wave. What's that? Well, don't you remember? Go look up Dolores Cannon. I was like, oh, okay. So I went and looked it up, and I remembered seeing a little bit about it when I watched one of her videos one time. So then I was told, okay, don't look at anything else. Now just write. So I'm not allowed to look at things. If I'm channeling something, I have to just write.
Right.
So I just did that. Well, the book was done. Okay. The book was done, Carl. It was like, I was waiting on one section from one contributing author, and it was delayed. So I do plant medicine. So I did a plant medicine journey with a new plant and a new facilitator. And I got into the plant medicine journey. I thought nothing's happening, nothing's happening. And all of a sudden this particular plant kicked in, and bam, here's White Eagle sitting in front of me, clear as day. Like we're just sitting in front of each other.
During the ceremony?
Yes. And he starts telling me, he connects all the dots of my life. And that's why I wrote that preface, because that book was already done. And then this ceremony happened and he connected like every single dot in my life. Remember when this happened? Remember when this happened? This was what I was talking to you. I was talking to you here, 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 here. You weren't listening to this. You forgot about this. And like the whole thing was laid out. And I said, oh my gosh. And he said, you know what? You better put my name on the book because nobody knows who you are. And some people actually know who I am, but nobody knows who you are, Kerri. So you need to put my name on the book, and then we'll get somewhere. So I did. So I took the brave leap of faith to put his name on the book.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And people actually do know who he is.
Well, this plant how is it pronounced? Ayusaka or what's?
Oh, ayahuasca. No, I wasn't working with
Ayahuasca.
ayahuasca. I was working with a different plant this time, but I have done a lot of work with ayahuasca. I think ayahuasca is a great plant to work with for people who are ready for self-actualization and who are ready to, that part of the process necessary for that is to face your shadows.
Now, two of my past friends who have been on this show from Scandinavia, from Norway, they have both done ayahuasca and say it's an understatement, mind expanding.
Yeah, well, it's a mind excavation.
Yeah. Well, I'm still on this path here. So White Eagle appears to you during this plant ceremony. So when you channel him now, he speaks through you? Are you speaking in normal voice? I mean, can he come and talk to us? Is he with you today? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's always lurking in the background. Until he comes in. Yeah. Whoop.
Do you know? Can you feel when he comes in?
Yeah, I can feel it.
Okay.
I'm feeling it now. I mean, he's just yes. Yeah. It's easier for me when up until now, it's in the flow.
Yeah.
So we merge in the flow.
Okay.
Well, we merge. It's like he comes in and we merge in the flow.
White Eagle, you are more than welcome to join in. So we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you also mentioned the Four Winds training down in Peru. Now, I read that last night, and that was really, really interesting stuff. There's certain stones that animate, and they, what are the name of those stones? And you can tell us more about that.
Oh, well, you mean medicine stones?
Yeah, medicine stones, but there was a certain name for them, but they animate.
Kuyas.
Yeah, okay.
Kuyas. So in the Karo tradition, they work with kuyas. And kuyas are medicine stones. They're stones that have been programmed for healing based on people's medicine that they want to share with other clients. So like my medicine is a lot of psychological and emotional healing. And so my kuyas are geared towards psychological and emotional healing for others. And so when people pick up my kuyas and my mesa, then I know kind of what they're working at already because those stones have certain purposes and functions. But the kuyas are medicine, they're teachers. The stones are teachers. A lot of people think stones are stones, but stones are wise ancient beings that are here on the planet at this time to help us. You know, they're part of the formation of our planet.
Yes.
So nothing comes without a purpose. It all has a purpose.
And everything is energy, so that doesn't surprise me that you say that stones, I mean, our hands are energy and the stones are energy, and there's wisdom in all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, when you meditate with like a Lumerian crystal, for example, now you're gaining a lot of wisdom that's inside that crystal. The crystals actually are interesting because they move. They're not static. They transform, they change. When you look at crystals, when you have a crystal you're working with, sometimes it will develop extra like little steps along the side and things, and inclusions inside change because the stone's alive. It's transforming.
I have mine in my pocket.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
And when you look at it enough, you notice sometimes it changes, like little things appear, right?
Yeah. Always have it. It absorbs a lot of negative energy. So that's awesome.
Well, so White Eagle wants me to talk about the plants. So the plant medicines are really important.
Yes.
Yeah. So the jungle is our nature's medicine cabinet. Okay. So the fact that the jungle parts of it are burning is really disturbing because it's our medicine cabinet. So there's lots of teachers in the jungle, medicines in the jungle that come here from other planets. They're plants, but they have wisdom from other places in the galaxy, right? I mean, if you're going to have a school, you want to have teachers from around, right, to teach your students. So this is a school. So there's plants from all around the galaxy that come in this, that are here now to teach. But you're not going to learn anything from them if your mind's all full of deadlines and nonsense and thinking and all this kind of stuff. You're not going to learn anything from the plants until you quiet your ass down and lay down and be quiet and listen to them. And, you know, at first, you probably need to, you know, ingest the medicines in order for them to have an effect, because just how much crust is around your consciousness, like it's just really dense. So, you know, people without that are beginning their journey of this awakening process, there's just a lot of crust around their consciousness. So, you know, it's sort of like you need a little chisel, you know, to get through it. So the plant creates a crack in that and can insert itself now. And when you ingest it, it can get into your matrix from the inside, and now it can start to inform you. And once you've ingested a plant, it's always with you. So once you've ingested ayahuasca, the teacher is with you all the time now. Once you've ingested any plant, the teacher is with you all the time. It can teach you all the time. So now you can work with the spirit of the plant. It's not necessary to take a bunch of medicine all the time, although it helps sometimes for people when they're really clearing a lot of stuff out of their consciousness, that's clutter, that crust. The plant can really help, but you can learn to work with the plants, the spirit of the plant, without ever imbibing it too. But you have to be clear enough. The consciousness can't be too crusty. If it's real crusty, got a lot of stories and stuff built up in there that needs to be cleared out, you can't hear the plant because you're too full of your own stuff. So you got to get all that stuff out of there in order to really hear the plant. The plants have a great deal of wisdom to teach us. They are very patient and kind and giving and faith, you know, like they're here to teach us. And their lives are at peril and they can't do anything about it, right? Because of us, because of whatever crazy ass thing we decide to do collectively impacts them. So we're the ones who need to wake up. The plants are already woke. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think I need a rototiller to break up the crust around me.
Well, it's no doubt. I mean, we all do. We're living in, we are upgrading the human consciousness. So just like what we're doing right now is those of us who are part of the second wave, and is that we came into the body. We embodied to heal it from the inside out, because just like the plant can't really, you can't even hear the plant if it's way out there trying to tell you something. You can hear it better when it's in you. Same thing with higher consciousness. You can't, you got to put it in the human and then heal from the inside out. So a lot of us decided to come in, embody as human, who maybe you didn't have to embody anymore. Like, we're done embodying. We're off on other adventures, but many of us chose to come in and go ahead and embody again and come into this human form and experience it and heal it from the inside out so we could understand what was going on in this planet. So now that we've done a lot of that work, the cool part is to wake up and remember who you really are. And then be that in the form. So that's called self-actualization. And what's the self that's being actualized? The soul. So we're getting beyond the story of who you thought you were up until now in your life. Your name, your address, your parents, your degrees, your job, the things you think you like and don't like. That's just all a bunch of stories that had to do with the personality self you're being. But we now have an opportunity to sort of refine what parts of that story we're going to keep and what parts we're going to just, discard because it's not relevant.
Well, the whole goal of a spiritual journey and enlightenment is to awake from this dream and return to our source, right?
Well, but it's not the way people maybe think, like maybe some people think, oh, I'm going to wake up to my source, and then they just poof off the planet. No. It's actually cooler than that. You waking up inside the vessel that you were already in, except now you're expanded beyond what you thought you were. you're expanded beyond it. And it can be multidimensional. So right now, in me is White Eagle speaking. Now you could tell the difference when White Eagle's speaking because the energy changes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big energy that comes through, right? And it's sort of like hypnotic. So there's White Eagle that speaks. It's very hypnotic and very beautiful. There's Kerri Hummingbird. There's, other aspects of my consciousness, right? All in here together. And so it's sort of like who's going to take front and center stage. So the more you have the capacity to trust the one that wants to come through you from the higher consciousness space, then you'll have more of this hypnotic, beautiful, dreamy flow state that you get to encounter where time stops and it doesn't really matter, right?
I love that term, flow. Yeah, you're in the flow. A lot of athletes experience that, like LeBron James is going down the lane, and every athlete will tell you when they're in the flow, in the moment, excuse me, everything slows down and they hear nothing outside. Everything is just focused, and yeah, flow is beautiful. Now, I know White Eagle wanted to talk about the plants. I do have a question. Are there specific plants for specific purposes, specific healings, that type of thing?
Well, okay, so the plants, this is interesting. So Mother Earth knows what plants would best serve her children at what time. Okay, so front and center stage right now is a whole lot of ayahuasca, right? We're noticing it. A lot of people are waking up and they're what? They're getting the urge to pursue ayahuasca or to explore ayahuasca or to find out, how do I do that? And they might also, there's another teacher at play right now, a couple of them, is mushrooms, right? So some people are getting called to explore mushrooms. They're like, oh, I need to explore these mushrooms. And then other people are like, I need to explore this marijuana. So marijuana would be like for people that are just opening up to other possibilities outside of their conscious, whatever they think their reality is. So marijuana opens a door for that. But the mushrooms and the ayahuasca, they're actually helping you to clear away the clutter of your personality so that your soul can be way more active in your body. So they have a very different purpose than marijuana. Marijuana collaborates some, but then you've got to let the marijuana go. That's like gone now. We don't play with that anymore because it's not serving. So different plants for different people will activate at different times. And how do you know they've activated? Because you have a desire to pursue it, or you keep hearing about it, or people keep telling you about it, or you just know that you need to work with that plant somehow. And that's because the Divine Mother is talking to you in your sleep or in your consciousness and telling you, hey, this would be really good for you. I want you to work with this now. So that's, the Mother's working with us all the time. The Mother Earth is always working with all of us to get to wake us up. So what plants are best? Whatever plants the Mother is telling you, you should be working with that plant.
Well, last night, again, reading The Second Wave, one of the really surprising plants that you have used, and I would never thought this, but you explained it, tobacco.
Tobacco's awesome.
And how?
I think it's interesting. Well, okay, tobacco's gotten a bad rap because people have used it in their incorrect way. So if you disrespect a medicine, you will suffer a consequence. Tobacco is not a medicine of inhaling into your lungs and sort of getting yourself intoxicated on it. That's a misuse of the medicine. That's an addictive behavior, and it's a misuse of the medicine. It's not meant for that. Tobacco is meant for prayer. It's meant as an offering to spirit with breath. You don't inhale it and you don't smoke it for, to get high. It's not about that. You do that, you'll suffer consequence. It's a medicine for prayer, and it's a medicine for healing and cleansing. And I've taken it one step further and just been really blessed to integrate tobacco with my matrix. So, don't do this at home because it's very dangerous actually. But you want to work with with a shaman that knows what they're doing from the jungle and that does this. It's very specialized. But if you choose to go this route, it's a very intense route. I'll say it's a path of integrity. And so you don't want to walk on the path unless you're really ready to be highly integrous in every area of your life. That being said, I decided to walk that path. And I got led to the jungle, and I worked with a shaman. I did a dieta, which a dieta is basically ingesting tobacco juice and some other things that the shaman prepares on a daily basis for 5-6 days.
Wow.
That could kill you if you do it on your own and you don't do it the right way, right? So ingesting it, what does that do? Well, that puts it in my physical matrix. So now you could think of it like armor on the inside. So my field it's got a spidey glove of tobacco. So whenever I do a healing, I can even extract energy out of people with my hands now. It's just like, and they feel it go. It's like, I don't even need the tools.
Wow.
So it's just in me, and I'm protected from a whole lot of things that before I used to struggle to kind of like clear myself of, like attachments or negative energies or things like that. Now it's just like flick it, off. So it's nice. And I have a relationship with tobacco. So every morning I get up, I do my prayers, I open sacred space, I pray into the tobacco, I blow the prayers, all the directions, and I clear myself. And that's it. I don't use more than I need. And I just work with it in a respectful way. It's a teacher, and I know it listens to me even now, like, because the teachers are always there. They're always listening to see if you mean it or not.
This is just awesome.
I know, right?
I can't, wow. I still have 87,000 questions. One last question about plants. So ayahuasca and mushrooms, they break through the crust. Are they removing egogic illusions or blocks or walls that have been built there since we were children? Is that how that works?
Yeah, it's helping you become aware of those things so you can make the choice to release it. Ayahuasca in particular, I mean, they're both medicines work, they just do it in a different way. So whichever way you're called is the way you're called. It does the same thing basically. But what it does is it helps you it slows down your thinking to the place where you can see the connections between the thoughts, and you can track it back to where it started, and you can see how you've been living in an illusion, and then you can decide. And that's just an understatement of like how it actually works, because it really, well, like I'll give you one idea. So in one journey with ayahuasca, at one point I was working on boundaries, having good boundaries with others. And I was working on child healing. So I did a child healing with my inner child, and we were, in my mind's eye, we were sitting together in like a little rocking chair and just sort of enjoying each other's company, and everything was beautiful. The sunshiny and gorgeous day, and everything was beautiful inside my journey. And then I got this question, well, I'm here all by myself. Where's everybody else? And then I went out to go explore, like, where is everybody else? And I tapped into my mother's field, and all of a sudden I was in a completely different terrain where things were not so sunshiny, and it was like desolate, and it was like, whoa, like it was a whole different world. And I was starting to become that. I could feel myself starting to shape into that and become that, as if that was my reality. And then the medicine popped me back into my bubble of sunshine and said, this is you. Stay here.
Wow.
Just sample that. So it's a teacher in that way. You see what I mean? So it slows it down to the place where you can see what you were doing, losing yourself in somebody else. Like I could see I was losing myself in her field, and thinking it was my reality, I was confusing myself. And so it showed me that process that I always was going through up until then. And then it popped me out of it. So now that I've got that pathway of popping back into my reality and knowing that that's not mine, I can sample it, but it's not me. I don't have to become it. I could stay here and know it's there. Now I have that. It's in my field. There's your kitty. Now it's in my field. I'm not going to lose that now. So the medicine taught me viscerally and experientially what I needed to know about boundaries.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and two, your name that you have is Kerri Hummingbird. As you can see, Maya has joined us.
Hello, Maya.
Oh, jeez.
Kitty.
The experience with the hummingbird, which caused you to adopt your name as Hummingbird. Can you tell us about that? Was very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, this was before all of this intense plant medicine journey and things like that. And you think even before I was at the Four Winds a while ago, maybe 8 years ago, I realized I could buy a house. And so I was looking around for the house I should buy. And when I came to this house, I knew, oh, this is the house I'm supposed to live in. Okay, because there's an energy signature here that I needed to be part of. I didn't know that then, but I just knew I needed to be in this house. And so I said, well, that's my house. And a little while later, my real estate agent called and she said, oh, Kerri, bad news. You know, they already under contract with somebody and they've been going back and forth negotiating several times now. It's probably done. You know, normally those things close. I said, don't worry about that. You just tell them as soon as they have it available, tell them I want it. So I went into a drum journey. I took my drum and I closed my eyes and I went into a journey and I saw myself in the house, and I'm making the whole thing up. I saw myself in the house. And then all of a sudden my grandparents came in who are deceased and they're like, we love this house. And they're looking around, but I'm still kind of making it up, you know? And then all of a sudden I'm about to wrap up the journey and I'm in the kitchen in my house in the journey. And I look out the back window and there's this rainbow light whoosh with a hummingbird. Shoo. Time stops. I thought, whoa, I didn't make that happen. Where'd that come from? Wow. And I'm having this moment of awe that I didn't create that it just happened. It was spirit speaking to me. And then the phone rang.
Mm-hmm.
The house is yours. How much are you going to offer? That deal fell through.
After a vision of a hummingbird and a rainbow.
And I thought, oh, okay. So I looked it up and the description fit me. That's who I am. I'm a messenger between worlds. There's a word for it. I can't remember. I can never remember the word, but I'm a doorway. So I'm a doorway for anything to come, really anything. So with my discernment, I choose White Eagle, so I don't let other things come through me. I allow high vibrational, teachers and masters to speak through me, White Eagle being my primary guide.
Well, I just for the moment, sticking with the hummingbird thing again, there was another one where you were somewhere out by yourself standing on a rock and you called a hummingbird.
I did.
If you could briefly tell us about that, was really super cool.
Yeah, so that was just a couple years ago. I was doing some studying with the Power Path, and we do like a solo journey. It's you go out in the woods in your own little spot, and you can only have like some water and your tent and a sleeping bag, and that's it, really. Like no journals, no food, none of that, because you're on a vision quest. So I was on a vision quest. It was the first day of my vision quest. So it's a 3-day vision quest, first day. So I wasn't like delusional yet because I just ate, so I had plenty of food. I was there maybe 6 hours, 7 hours. And I decided I'm going to go practice these sacred healing songs. I want to sing some sacred healing songs that they've been teaching me. So I found a big rock to stand on, like a stage, because I'm a sage, so I serenade the woods. So I stood up on there, I started singing my song, and this particular song I was singing was calling in support, like, hey, buffalo, come here and help, or, trees, come here and help, or mountains, come here and help me, and, kind of calling in support. And then I got to the end and I thought, I'm going to call in hummingbird. So I sing the little stanza to like, come on in, hummingbird, and come and help me. And I have this little giggle inside of me. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this hummingbird flies through the forest, stops dead in front of me, looking at me, hovered like inches from my face, and just stays there. And I'm looking at it like, You came when I called. Okay, that was glad you're here. Awesome. Well, thank you. And then it nodded. It like literally nodded and flew
Really?
away.
Oh my,
I was
wow.
like, you're kidding, right?
That's a beautiful story. I
But
love
it was important because I needed to know that like I was doing all these healing sessions, right? And I was calling in all the support but I didn't see anything happening with my eyes, right?
it.
I just had to trust that I was calling in support and it was coming.
Yeah. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
people were having good outcomes, so I assumed it was working. But this was different because it was like spirit going right there with me. I'm right here. Every time you call, it's like this.
Mm,
You don't
yeah.
see it, but it's like this. I
So
was
the
like,
hummingbird is your spirit animal.
yes.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. I
Wow.
love hummingbird. It's a great animal. They're so
I
fearless and tiny and courageous
oh
and
yeah. I haven't figured out what mine is. Mine's probably like a platypus or something. Or maybe it's Maya the cat. I don't know.
well, you can do an animal drum journey to find out. I do that with my students.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned drums again. I find this interesting. What is it about using a drum during meditation or ceremonies? Does it change the energy, vibrational energy frequency around you and bring you
It's a
more in
tool.
tune with things?
It is. It's a tool. So the drum does that. A rattle does that too. So for the drums point, what they found scientifically is that the certain a certain number of beats per minute will actually take your brain out of beta state, which is your thinking brain, and into alpha theta state. And so shamanic drumming is about getting that beat correct so that you go into a trance state. And in the trance state is where you meet spirit. You meet spirit in the trance, in the space between thoughts is in where you meet spirit. So you want to get your brain state totally changed so that when you're in that space, you can be one with spirit. And sometimes it's hard even with that for people to do it because their brains are so chattery. It's hard to quiet down. So the rattle is also effective for that. So I just had to do one. I did a presentation at a East West bookshop, and they wouldn't let me use my drum because they said they had a drum journey after or something like that. So
Mm,
I had to use my rattle. It was the first time I'd done one of those journeys with a rattle. So I learned I could actually do it with a rattle, and for me, it's like spinning the energy up. So I'm spinning.
mhm,
I actually turned around. They were all lying down and everything, and I did the rattle and I opened space and I just asked the guides to like spin this up and put them down in their trance so they can get the healing that they need. Because otherwise, if you stay popped up in your thinking brain, then you don't change realities.
mhm, mhm.
You don't go to the quantum field. You don't change. You stay right here in your thing. You can be your thing as long as you want to be your thing. But if you want the thing to change, you got to go in the quantum space. You have to go into the void, into the space between space. So these are tools that get you into that space so you can go in trance.
Wow, what just came out of your mouth is
That
just
was White Eagle.
phenomenal.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like I just let it come through.
Namaste, White Eagle.
I
Thank you.
know it's like amazing, right? So like when I get going, when I get fired up, like I did at that workshop, man, I stand in front of 50 people or something, and it just starts pumping out like that. It's like really fast.
Well, let me, we've been chatting here for a while to Kerri Hummingbird. And your stuff, like I said, is just jaw dropping to me. And I feel like I'm just a complete student here learning all about this. And I love every moment of it. Where you're at right now, you offer healings, ceremonies, that type of thing. And you've been doing fire walks with your groups. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Firewalk is a really powerful experience. Everything shamanic is about experiencing spirit. It's about the experience, not about thinking about it or talking about it. It's about doing it. So the firewalk is one of those one of those experiences that'll blow your doors off because most people are afraid of fire.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, most people are really afraid of fire. They think it's like black and white. It's like bad. It hurt you bad. But fire is actually an energy and it's a gradient. It's a gradient energy. It's not all the kind that'll destroy you. Like there's a whole range of fire. So the firewalk teaches you about that experientially. And it also teaches you that that the fire is a consciousness, is there to purify you, is there to transform you. It's there to help you burn up some clutter inside of you that's been blocking you from feeling good. And it's there for joy. It's there to rekindle like the sun in your heart. Open the sun in your heart. Open it up. Open it up. So that's what White Eagle told me one time in a vision. I had this drum journey vision I was doing in the bathtub, like just listening to Sandra Ingerman. And at the end of it, I saw this periscope opened and came closer to my eye. And then closer to me came White Eagle. I didn't know it was White Eagle at the time, but it was a Cherokee, like with a full headdress and all of this. And he says to me, open the sun in their hearts. And then he goes. And I was like, wait a second, come back. But I think it's because I think this is it. It's like open the fire, fire in our hearts. The fire in our hearts will burn the crust. So when we reconnect with the fire, we reconnect with that element that will burn the crust away, and our hearts can flow love again. And so the fire walk does that. So pragmatically, you go to the workshop and a whole bunch of, talking happens and experiencing things. And then at the end of it, you get to walk across the fire if you choose it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it.
I can be honest. I mean, if I was faced with that, I honestly don't know if I would have the faith, but perhaps if, I worked with you or anybody, in advance, get to that place. I know even Tony Robbins is famous for doing the fire walks with him. He's, maybe he's a covert shaman. I don't know.
Well, he did train for the same school, the same teachers that my teacher trained with. But he does it in a different way. He's got Tony Robbins has got a different energy than me.
Oh yeah.
So what I do, it's a sacred experience. It's not, it's not just about crossing the fire because you feel empowered, which is nothing wrong with that. It's appropriate. But this is about a sacred experience. It's about realizing that the fire is not there to hurt you. It's not your enemy. It's an element.
I like the part about open the sun in your heart that White Eagle told you, because the sun is actually a ball of fire.
Sure is. And it's the center of our universe, and we would not be alive without it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kerri, I'm taking up much of your afternoon here. I mean, this has just been, I know for me, I can only imagine for our viewers and listeners here. I mean, this has been totally mind expanding. I absolutely love what you're doing. I have a couple friends that live in Austin. I'm going to have to come out there and hang with you and learn more.
Yes, absolutely. Come to our fire walk.
Oh, can I wear socks? No.
I think it would be worse if you wore a sock. Carl, everybody dances around the fire. When they come to the fire walk, I haven't had anybody not go. They all walk.
Yeah.
They don't just go once either. They go like a dozen times.
Really? Wow.
They go again and again.
I have a friend that's done fire walk twice. Yeah. So, we're talking to Kerri Hummingbird. She has a beautiful website called kerrihummingbird.com. And if people choose to work with you one-on-one, they can contact you through the website.
Yeah, there's an easy scheduling tool on there for a discovery call. If you just want to have a discovery call, or there's a healing sessions you can sign up for there too. And and I do group mentoring program called Butterfly Circle. So this helps with self-actualization. So that's up there too.
And I really, really recommend to anybody watching or listening that they pick up a copy of her new book, The Second Wave, Transcending the Human Drama, which she channeled through White Eagle. And also you have a number of other books that I saw, and I looked at some. I downloaded your one ebook about changing yourself. I can't remember the title.
Awakening to Me?
Yes. Yeah. And but it's very different than what this second wave.
Totally different, right? Because I channeled this book, and the other book was my story. This was like 8 years ago. I wrote that book over 2 years. So I was integrating a lot of things, but I published that book in 2014. And after that is when I got that energy that we talked about. Oh,
well, I could sit here and talk to you forever, but
more stories of beyond.
Oh yeah. Got a lot. Thank you so much for the fantastic work you're doing. Oh, you know what? And I even mentioned this to you before. I didn't ask you the question for every episode. Why now do you think that the population, why now more than ever, that the population of the world is awakening to all things enlightening and spiritual and metaphysical?
Well, I think the reason why is because couple different ways of looking at it. Mother Earth is ready for us to wake up, number one. So we're made of her, so she can communicate any message she wants to us telepathically and make us think it's our idea. So that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is, it is written in the stars. This is the turn into the age of Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
So this turn into the age of Aquarius is either going to leave you stranded in your egoic mind, or bring you to expand deeper roots into your subconscious and into your understanding of yourself with your divine mother. It's going to do one of the two. So you get to choose which path are you going to go.
It's time. It's just time. The age of
The
Aquarius.
time is the age of Aquarius. So there's a huge capacity for a lot of inventions and brilliance and technology, and there's a lot of capacity for that to be used for selfish self-interest, and there's a lot of capacity for the opposite, for like an awakening of unity consciousness. So it's you're going to notice that if you're in the unity consciousness, you're going to start noticing that there's two bubbles of group consciousness.
Yes.
There's ours, and then there's the other one. And you can see the two of them. Now, if you're in the other spot, you're like, what are you talking about? But you won't see it. But if you've come this far, you'll see that there's two different coexisting bubbles of reality, and we're in the unity consciousness bubble, if you're listening to this broadcast. So the ones that are in the other bubble, they can still come over into this bubble. They just have to make it there. It's going to get more and more challenging to do that. But, different people wake up at different times. That's the other thing, Carl.
Yes.
It's like, don't get so concerned about it. Everyone's like, oh, this is terrible, things on the planet. Yes, and, sometimes people need an emergency to wake up. They need the alarm clock to go off really loud in order to get up in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Divine Mother is putting the alarm clock out there for people to wake up. And we got the wake up call in probably 2011, 2012, right? So we got it already. And so we've done our work to wake up. Now we get to continue to do our work to self-actualize.
Mm-hmm.
The next wave is waking up. It's fine. They're getting the alarm now. They're happening. So everyone gets the alarm when it's right for them to get the alarm. It's not for us to decide who wakes up and who doesn't wake up when we want them to wake up. Well, if we all woke up at the same time, it would be chaos on the planet. Think about that. I mean, I know what my awakening looked like over the last 8 years. It was pretty intense. I had moments I couldn't even get out of bed. I had like a lot of extreme things happening in my psychology, big depressive moments, like lots of stuff going on. I needed somebody to be grounded for me during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So the grounded people are the ones who aren't waking up yet,
I agree with you that it could be chaos if everybody suddenly woke up. And this is why all that is, our Creator's source, is sitting there next to us slowly and beautifully. Like if you have a child who's asleep, you don't want to go over and shake them and wake up and just wake up, and done beautifully and slowly. And you may not even awake during this lifetime. It may be a next lifetime or 10 lifetimes from now. As you said, everybody wakes up at their own pace and time. So.
But, some people, Carl, are a little worried about this because they're like, well, they're going to destroy the earth before we get to enjoy it. And I wouldn't believe that story, because I'll tell you, we got a spirit message I'll share with you. It's really beautiful. I was at I did a closing ceremony for the Evolutionary Business Council this year in San Antonio. And we did a prayer bundle. We called it Despacho, from my Peruvian lineage of training. And with this one, we did in a little palm leaf boat that went to float on the river, right? So we put all our prayers, and then we blew our prayers into these little flowers, and then all of this stuff went into the little boat. And then we went down together in silence, and we put the boat on the water and gave it to Divine Mother and said, here. Well, that river was flowing really, really strong to the left, right? Really going, like you could see the ripples, the current, and it was really strong. So we put the little boat down, and it went down that way a little bit. Then it pirouetted and turned around and went upstream. It
against
literally
the current?
Floated against the current upstream effortlessly.
Wow.
And we were all like, whoa, this is like a message for us. This is a message. Like, as we awaken and as we tune into unity consciousness and as we get connected with Divine Mother and we listen and we follow our guidance, with a great spirit, and we really listen, we're going to float up the river just like that. It's that easy.
Mm-hmm.
This thing's still going on. That's fine. We're floating.
Wow. Well, okay, Kerri, that's my cue. We're going to float out of here.
We're float on out of here.
Yeah. This is, again, I am so grateful to you for being on. It just phenomenal. My mind is just already spinning. So once we get off of this little program, I'm going to be sitting here and go, whoa, I got to go buy a drum. I got to buy a rattle.
Yeah, man, get a drum, get a rattle.
And I do hope to come out to Austin sometime. And KerriHummingbird.com. Go to her website, check out what she has to offer, and it's quite a bit. And again, her book, The Second Wave, Transcending the Human Drama, along with her buddy, White Eagle. And Kerri, thank you for coming on World Awakenings, and I always namaste. Thank you.
Namaste, Carl.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in each and every episode of this podcast, World Awakenings, as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that all of the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things metaphysical and spiritual, and just how they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment everyday life. Much love and light to you, my friend. Thank you for tuning in.